Hey guys, what's up? Lamar here. Today we're going to talk about the collapsible steering shaft in an old Beetle. Stick around, we're going to take this thing out. Okay, so first things first, up inside this shaft here, inside the steering wheel, is a nut. And it may or may not be the right size, but it looks like it's a 1 1/16 fractional socket. So I'm sure it's probably some kind of funky metric since it's a foreign vehicle. But you just stick that thing up in there, and you can use a regular ratchet if you want to. But I just stuck an impact up in there and knocked that nut off, and it come right off. And we will come back to this part in just a second. Okay, so you notice on this end, this piece is actually welded to the car. It does not move. This is your firewall, which has been all cut out to pieces. But this part is welded in your car, and it does not move. Now this piece is the piece that goes from obviously here all the way up to the back end of your steering wheel, and it houses this shaft. Now, if you'll notice this funky little thing, it's, I don't know the proper term for it, but it's got to do with some kind of safety collapsible steering shaft. And it actually has another one in this part of the steering wheel. And, you know, the older Beetles, I think from 67 and back, this part here actually connects to your steering box. But this part here was all one solid shaft. You know, if you hit something hard enough, that could drive that thing all the way up through, and it could come through and kill the driver because of the steering shaft. And I think the safety part about this, and it's pretty cool, is the ideal is on impact this collapses. But if you're trying to remove it, it will not go through that. This part will not go through here. So as we look at it upon further inspection, you can see basically it looks like it's clamped on with these pieces right here, and there's no visible welds on that end. So I'm going to spray this thing down with some penetrant, some kind of WD-40 or something. And I'm going to bend these pieces here out, and then we're going to get to the business end of this hammer and chisel, and we're going to work this thing over and see what we can come up with. I'll be right back. Okay, so just as I suspected, after I straightened these little pieces right here, this whole thing just comes right off. It's a keeper. It keeps it from sliding and going up through there. And then you have to disassemble your box mount right here. And I don't know if you've ever noticed this or not, but there's a nut that goes in here. It goes all the way through with or not a nut, but a bolt. But on this side, it's 13 millimeter. And on the nut side, it's 14 millimeter. Or in my case it was. You know, today if you go out and buy standard, I'm not much of a metric, but I'm sure it's the same thing. But if you go out and you buy a metric or a standard bolt, let's say you buy one that's got a 1/2 inch head on it, pretty much it's going to have a 1/2 inch nut on the other side. But back in the olden days, if you carried a few tools around with you, maybe you wouldn't carry two 13 millimeter wrenches with you. So if you had a 13 millimeter and then you had a set that had a 14 in it, then you could take this off by yourself. So that's my guess on it. So anyway, you take that, and obviously I've already taken it out because if you look up real close, it's supposed to be grooved, which it is. It just needs some good old cleaning on it, which I'll do that. And then after that, this thing is pushed, including this part, back through this firewall piece. Everything is pushed all the way back through the front, and it comes out. And this is what I call a Volkswagen collapsible steering shaft. Whether it is or whether it ain't, I don't know. So you may be asking yourself, why in the world is he taking that steering wheel out of that old piece of junk that's left over? Well, it's going in this piece of junk that doesn't have a steering shaft. And I don't know if I've showed you this or not, but it's pretty rough. This bug, I probably had it for 2 years, I guess, sitting in here. I give $50 for the whole body, the whole body, glass and all. And the pan, I kept, that pan is a 73 pan, which is off the original bug that I cut up originally. So my plans for this one is I'm going to chop it up and dice it up and make a Volks rod out of it. But that's another story. The 66 black one has to be running and gunning first. But listen, stay tuned. Please subscribe. Hit the notifications down at the bottom and bug out.